Before she could step back in protest, he took a napkin and dabbed the side of her mouth. Oh, yeah. He had the arrogance of a lawyer, but she quickly nixed the idea. Lawyers rarely wore jeans. Nor did they come stacked with abs or biceps like these. She'd been hit on by all kinds before, and if this clown thought he was charming or that she embarrassed easily, he was about to find out otherwise. Thanks. My mommy usually wipes my face in public, but since she's not here... Eden started toward her favorite picnic table in the park across the street from the courthouse. Her new friend, with the monumental ego, retrieved his hot dog and caught up to her. Sorry about that. I just don't think yellow's your shade. He took his own good-sized bite of the dog, and her annoyance lessened. I saw your closing argument, he said. You did a good job. He'd been in the courtroom? How'd she miss him? He kept his dark blonde hair shorter than she liked, but she loved dimples, and it didn't hurt that he wasn't obsessed with a razor. Based on his tanned, unlined face, she'd place him in his late 20s, early 30s. With those aviator sunglasses, it was hard to tell. She couldn't see his eyes. Too bad. On the other hand, Eden never missed a chance for a critique. So, if you were in that jury room right now, how would you vote? I only heard your side. He shrugged. Besides, I come with a pretty strong bias. He pulled back his jacket, revealing the shield clipped to his belt. A cop, thus explaining his arrogance. She finished the last bite of the dog, tossed the wrapper in a nearby trash can, then leaned down for a closer look at his ID. Well then, Detective... Dancer, as much as I appreciate the beauty tip, I don't think I'd like to talk to you about St. Patrick's School. As much as she willed it not to. Her mind rewound 17 years. She'd read the school was having financial woes and had formed a fundraising committee. Shading her eyes, she squinted up at him. Had he gone to St. Patrick's? If you're alumni, you'll have to swing by my office. I don't keep my checkbook with, Are you always this difficult to talk to? Always. She blinked. What part of swing by my office confused you? The part where I produce my credentials and you think I'm a solicitor. The detective pointed to the table. Could we sit, please? I'm here on official business. What he could have to say to her in any capacity was beyond comprehension. Still, it was warm outside, and she had a magnificent view of the foothills. She moved to a picnic table shaded by a poplar tree, stepped up on the bench, and plopped down on the tabletop. I think I should warn you, Detective, I didn't leave St. Patrick's on the best of terms. I heard. You heard? He opened a pocket notebook. I talked to Mr. Edgars, the school's current principal. He went through old records and told me you'd been expelled. I prefer to think I was forcefully invited not to return. So did St. Patrick's burn to the ground and I'm your best suspect? Frowning, she shook her head from side to side. That's just sad. As far as I know, it's still standing. Kevin joined her on the tabletop. She liked that about him. He knew how to eat a hot dog and he wasn't uptight. I was told, when you attended school, you were particularly close to one of its teachers. A laugh escaped and she slapped her thigh. I was expelled, Detective. They didn't make that part up. I wasn't tight with any of those cold-blooded penguins. Her religious name was Sister Beatrice, he said, undeterred. As Eden mentally ticked off the names of her teachers, their names came easily to mind. Yet, at his use of this unfamiliar person, her stomach felt like she'd been afloat on the Red Sea at the time Moses had parted it. Eden pressed a hand to her stomach just as her cell phone rang. Typical cop, Dancer didn't give space. She would have called him on his behavior if the party needed attorney-client confidentiality, but since all that was required was a simple goodbye, she saw no reason to challenge him. She stood and flipped the phone shut. Verdict's in. Gotta run. He helped her from the bench, earning him yet another gold star and annoying her further. She walked away. The tenacious man called after her. Eden, you didn't answer my question. Sister Beatrice, do you remember her? Eden sighed and turned in his direction. No matter how much she liked the cop's looks, no way in hell was she reliving her days at St. Patrick's.